Hello, everybody. We are very happy to welcome you to the pavilion this afternoon. My name is David Boeren, and together with my colleagues here at Studium Generale, I organize all kinds of lectures, film screenings, workshops, and more. From popular movie screenings to lectures about current events, we do it all. The war in Ukraine, QAnon, the downing of flight MH17, or the Syrian Civil War. It seems like there's not much one can do about these topics as an ordinary civilian. But that could not be further from the truth. Researchers and investigators from Bellingcat work day and night to fact-check, catch criminals, and to uncover conspiracies and state secrets. How can they do this from the comfort of their homes, and what have they found? In this lecture, Bellingcat researcher Annique Mossou will explain to us how she uses publicly available data to research events such as the war in Ukraine. This week, the conflict will reach the eerie one-year milestone. Over this past year, the war has been Annique's main focus. How can you verify where a picture of an attack was taken and when? How do you uncover a war crime as an ordinary citizen? She will take us through her work tonight and just demonstrate to us how this is done. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Annique Mossou.
Okay, please feel free, raise your hand, shout, I don't care. But who can tell me where this is? Don't be shy, come on. Rotterdam. Who can tell me where this is? Who can tell me where this is? And this? Who can tell me where this is? This is Siem Reap, Cambodia. And this, who can tell me where this is? And you get bonus points if you can tell me something extra about the time this picture was taken. Because the details are all in there. For instance, by this little pedal in the corner of the picture, that can tell you with casting of the shadow in the sun direction when this picture was taken. This is a mangrove in Madagascar. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Annique Mossou. I'm a trainer and researcher for Bellingcat, and I'm gonna apologize. I have a bad cold, like everybody in Holland at the moment, so excuse me for my coughing sometimes. I worked at the National Police for 11 years, started out in uniform, chasing bad guys, and since 2014 I started doing open source intelligence for the Hague Police, the Hague city with the most demonstrations in Holland. Rolled into it and they told me, you're good with the internet, so you're gonna focus on terrorism. I had absolutely no idea what a terrorist was, except maybe somebody that presses a button and says boom. But okay, fine, I'll do it. By the time I left the police, I was specialized in ISIS propaganda. In Holland, propaganda is not illegal. Well, as long as it's positive propaganda. So you're free to show how ISIS, how much fun they have, and they have a lot of playgrounds. It's illegal to show how you decapitate people. End of the story, I had to watch all those decapitation videos and say, yo, this one is illegal. Contact with Facebook, ask them to take it down, and so on. And 2020, I got the chance to work for Bellingcat, and yeah, I jumped for it, never regretted it a moment. Even after 3 months, Corona hit, I gave up all my security at the police for a year contract. But luckily, I'm still here, so something went well. And as a trainer researcher, I focus daily on justice and accountability for Ukraine. I work on QAnon. I work on a lot of different stuff. So basically, I went from this to that. So let me tell you a little bit about Bellingcat. So we do open source analysis with an emphasis on transparency of sources and methods used. So if we publish a story, we'll tell you how we came to a certain conclusion, which steps we took, where we found the information, because at Bellingcat don't really want to use the word truth, because my truth could be different than yours. So here you have all the information. You can retrace the steps for yourself and draw your own conclusion. So half of our work is doing research, and the other half is doing trainings and presentation like this. And at the moment, we have around 30 employees worldwide. Our biggest investigations, I think most people will know us for the work we did on MH17. Well, not me, my colleagues. The Skripal poisoning in the UK, and of course, the poisoning of Alexei Navalny with the documentary being out there. But that's not all we do. I get it that people will link our name to Russia most of the time. Russia really doesn't like us. So I won't be going there, I think, for the rest of my life, but that's okay. What we also do is we investigate QAnon. We do work on Armenia, environmental work, the far right. We do a lot of stories on the far right. Child abuse. So the pictures that I showed you from Cambodia and Madagascar, they were part of Europol's Trace and Object. I don't know if you know this, but what Europol does is with all the footage from child pornography, they filter out clues that you can find in the background. That's also how the big child abuse investigation started running into Robert M. I don't know, for the Dutch people, I think, because you saw a Nijntje, I think it's Miffy in English, in the background, which triggered them to think, okay, maybe the victim lives in Holland. So what they do is they gather the clues from the background of those images, they post them online on Twitter in hope that somebody would recognize them. I have a colleague called Carlos, and Carlos is amazing. If you go to our website and you put in Carlos Gonzalez, he'll explain to you how he found a patch of land in Siem Reap, Cambodia, or how he found that certain mangrove in Madagascar. And the funny thing with Carlos is he's a trained engineer. His brain works completely different than mine. He is so structured in his thinking. And I can tell you how he found those locations. I'll be done in 5 minutes. It's basically not worth, because he spent, I think, over 100 hours on Google Earth and Google Maps until he actually found those locations. He did the same here for the FBI with a location in Turkey. And, oh, that's backwards. Let's go forward. But we're also doing more niche things, our personal interests. So here we have a story from Fouke, how to do geolocations on pictures that are in museums worldwide, and how he used new techniques to find old locations. We have a tech team. They make our auto archiver that we have running at the moment. And of course, we do a lot of work on Ukraine, but I'll take you through that a little bit later. If you're bored, we also have a podcast and a book. And I must say, Elliot, our founder, basically my boss, he has an amazing podcast voice. So it's very British, very chill. So maybe if you can't sleep or something else. It's also an interesting story. Season 1 is about MH17. Season 2 is about some horrible footage in Africa where women and children get murdered, and how they were able to find the location and also the perpetrators of those murders. But first, let's begin for social media for monitoring. Everybody likes to film interesting things. And I'm sure, is there somebody here in the room that doesn't have a smartphone? Is there somebody here that's completely not linked to any social media? Facebook, not even LinkedIn, not even that? Okay, I see 3 or 4 hands. But that means, like, the biggest part of us has a device which we can record videos, we can take pictures. I believe you can even use it to call people. I'm not really sure if you do that anymore. But you're basically connected to the biggest intelligence network in the world, the biggest that's ever been here. And that comes with some very interesting footage. So just a small warning, you'll hear some shooting. I'm going to show you a video. I want you to pay attention to the person that's crossing the street here. This was an incident in The Hague a couple years ago. The person that was just shot, you don't really see it in this footage. He walks around, I think with a butcher knife this big. And I saw that person walking over there and I thought, wow, can you imagine? You're just standing there ready to cross the street and then all of a sudden you see the police cars coming and you look next to you and you see a dude with a very big knife. Yeah, then you either have a very shitty evening or you come across this footage. For the people who don't speak Dutch, I think the police yelled at him 3 or 4 times that he needed to get away before he started walking. So not only is the dude with the big knife, and a knife can do a lot of damage, trust me, even when he's 3 meters away from you, is standing there. And at that moment, you don't think, maybe I should, I don't know, create a distance or something. No, at that moment you think, I'm gonna grab my phone and I'm gonna start filming. I have no idea what this person was thinking, and still, these are the kind of people I need to do my job. So yeah, it's very interesting. It creates interesting footage. So yes, everybody likes to film interesting things, and social media is designed to be addictive. I think most of us will know. Like, you want to share interesting footage with your friends, with the results that we have a huge amount of data out there. And that could be pictures of a beautiful dish that you created, cats, kittens playing piano, or I don't know, doing whatever. And of course, current events. So today, I think it's the 21st. So basically, we were 3 days away from the 1-year invasion of Ukraine. We all know this footage. Russian troops rolling into Ukraine. We all know the footage of people taking shelter in the subways, having to leave their house after all the bombing going on. Hospitals getting bombed. And also footage like this, the massacre in Bucha. And my colleagues asked me why I didn't blur the bodies. I didn't, because this is the reality. This is some of the footage I work with every day, hours a day. And basically, this is the best documented war in history. So what do we with Bellingcat do with all the footage? Well, together with the tech team, we try to store as much footage as possible. Think Telegram, TikTok, Twitter, websites, news websites. What we try to do is we want to preserve it all. And we're building a very big database that at some point, when I don't care which tribunal or court says we're going to prosecute people for the civilian harm that's been done, then we as Bellingcat can say, there you go. Here's our database. We verified it. We give you all the information that we have, because in 3 years, if they decide that they want to prosecute and we have to search for images like these, 80% will be gone. And it looks like this. So this is our civilian harm map in Ukraine. Right here, I made a screenshot somewhere around here. And all the purple marks are incidents of civilian harm. So we do not focus on the military or soldiers getting hurt, unless it's very gruesome. We've run into that as well. We did some articles about it. But these are schools, houses, markets, supermarkets that are being struck by rockets. I'm not an expert in weapons, so everything that comes out of the air and explodes when it hits the ground for me is a rocket. I piss a lot of weapon experts off if I say that. But what you can do with the map is if you zoom in, if you click on, so as you can see right here, click on one of the incidents, you can see the source. Sometimes sources are hidden because we want to protect the people that upload this footage, because if we can geolocate it, other people can do it as well, and we're not really sure if it might cause people harm. So if we have footage that people recorded from inside their houses, we still store the footage, but we won't publish it like this one because we want to protect the people that upload it. We do this together with our global authentication project that are around 30 volunteers who speak Ukrainian. Some are from the bigger cities in Ukraine, so they have a lot of local knowledge. Some speak Russian, some have other knowledge. They're trained by us and they help us to do the geolocations. We, people at Bellingcat, we verify if the geolocation is correct. And at the moment, I think we're over 1,000 incidents of civilian harm. And we get a lot of questions how we do the verification. So I'm going to talk you through it, and then I'm going to give you an example. And I think most of you can follow along on your telephone if you want, or else we can do it on the screen. Either way is fine by me. But so verifying digital information, especially now, a lot of disinformation out there in the world, it's the main pillar of an open source investigation. You start with something and you need to verify if the information that you received is correct. And if you know how to verify that digital information, there's basically, nothing that we find online that's gonna surprise us or, so knowing how to verify digital information can lead to very important discoveries. I think we at Bellingcat showed that several times, but also by giving people transparency in the way that we work, it also builds trust with audience. So the biggest source, I think I already gave it away a little bit, is videos and pictures at the moment. Especially now when you look at Ukraine, if you jump on Telegram, you don't have to explicitly know the platform. If you jump on Twitter, within 2 or 3 searches, you'll find a lot of footage from Ukraine. And before there was the internet, which everybody is connected to using their phone, people had to wait for information to come from journalists eventually into your home on radio or TV, and now it's just there, press of a button. Even if you don't want it, you still get a lot of information. Like I said, within seconds, you can find pictures or videos from the biggest events. The biggest part, verifying the information. And trust me, with enough time, proper training, it's not very hard to verify if, to do an image verification. Is the image that I'm looking at actually what people are telling that I'm looking at? I think about 2 years ago, I wrote a guide on how to do very easy verification. If you know how to go to hema.nl or find the cheapest airline ticket for your next vacation, trust me, you can do a verification in a couple steps. And sometimes it's just as easy as Googling what you see. Because we all know pictures like this, but we need to check if they are correct or not. there's a name here. I'm not going to even try to pronounce it because I'll extremely slaughter it. But yeah, is this true? How can we find out if this picture is actually taken there? The same goes for this picture. And these are things that are pretty easy to check, but it gets more and more difficult every time. This one, for instance, there's not a lot of information to go on. You have a Ukrainian flag. Yeah, I have no idea. But luckily there's geolocation. I mentioned it a couple of times. So geolocation is the process where you take footage, like the images I just showed you, and you use reference material to check if the location is indeed where they say it is. And we do that with pictures, we do it with videos. And the first thing if you do a geolocation is to very carefully look at a picture and just in your head, or write it down, make a list of every detail that you see. Try to focus on details that are like cars, not so much, cars drive away. Also not really sure about, for instance, a McDonald's, because my experience, a McDonald's is just there. I've never walked past that I see construction and then the next day I think, oh, they're gonna open a McDonald's. No, it happens overnight or something. I don't know how they do it. But look at the details. And then think, sometimes, what would it look like if I look from above? Because we use a lot of satellite images. And with a lot of training, it gets easier to do. And okay, maybe we will not become a Carlos and find a mangrove in Madagascar, but yeah, it's really not that complicated, and you just need to train yourself.
Can you mention the name of Carlos again?
Yeah, I think I can write it down or something. So, because looking at satellite images, you need to train your brain a little bit, because not everything is what it looks like. We have this picture by Beverly Schubert. I don't know if you know this picture. This is not a picture of a group of black horses. This is a group of zebras. And what you're actually looking at is their shade. This is basically the same if you look at the satellite footage. So for our little exercise, I have a picture. For the people that want to follow on their own phone, you can go to this bit.ly, but yeah, it will take you to this picture. And just have a look at some of the details of the picture. So what are some of the things that you might use for a geolocation? Again, don't be shy, just yell, because I can't see if you're...
The weather, it has snow, then it's cloudy.
Okay, there's snow, but we want to find this location. The buildings, yes. A church. I hear somebody say? What kind of church is this? Does somebody know? Orthodox, yes. Why? I didn't know this. If you're doing open source research, you have to educate yourself or you become an expert on a lot of things quickly. I didn't know this, but because of an onion dome. An onion dome makes it an Orthodox church. Yes, so we have an Orthodox church. We have the weather. We have the buildings. Other things? Yes. Orientation of the road. Power lines. So yes, we already have a lot of details, right? So what you could do is you could use Google Maps or Yandex, and you can search for Orthodox Church. But still, I think there are a lot in Ukraine. So let's see what the person who tweeted it said about it. And they say it's in Kharkiv. So let's assume he's right. And we would go to Street View or Google Maps or Yandex in Kharkiv. We could search just Orthodox Church. And these are some of the results that we could get. What could we do to improve these results? Pictures, yes. So we would, technically, we would be able to reverse image search or even crop the picture for some details. Like, let's go back to the picture for a second. We could try to crop out the church and do a reverse image search, but the poll makes it difficult. It will mess with the algorithm a little bit. Which language am I using? So what do you think will improve maybe some of my results? Yes. Because these are the results if we look for Ukrainian. And let me go back. English. Ukrainian. Can you see that there's a difference in the results? But now let's see, because it is their part of the world, let's see what Yandex does. So here we have Kharkiv. Again, Orthodox Church in Ukrainian. And I would say long live Google Translate, but I started using DeepL more than Google Translate because I think their translations are better. Anything that jumps out? Second one from? Right here. Yeah, that looks pretty familiar. So let's have a look with Street View. And as you can see, we have, of course, the Onion Dome. We have this building here. You can even, if you look here, you have a small corner of the bigger building that was behind it. And then you'll see that we indeed found the right location. A geolocation could be as simple as this. Is it always this simple? No, of course not, but that would ruin the fun. I always say open source people are a special kind of people. We can search for images like this for hours and hours, and then I work from home, basically 40 hours a week. And then I find it and I'm so happy, and I look at my cat and then I think, yes, I did it, and then I go back to the next picture. But yes, I'm very happy with those little results. Yeah, it's just if you train yourself, there is a risk though, because then if your friend sends you pictures from their vacation, you go like, yeah, that's very nice. You have a nice tan. Okay, let's see. What do I see in the background? I see a hotel. I see ships. I see a beach. Oh, I can find this location. And then you go do freaky stuff with, yeah. No, so it's a nice hobby, and if people want some tips, there are Twitter accounts that even do this as a contest. They post a picture every day and ask you to find the location. But I also get a lot of questions about the impact of the work that I'm doing. And I still, because I notice at the end of presentations like this that people are interested. And I always want to warn them a little bit if you do work like this. Because at Bellingcat we find it's important that we also talk about mental hygiene. And because doing research like this, it does give you a risk for vicarious trauma and moral injury. And even though I'm not a trained professional, I am an expert by experience because my work with the police was not always fun and games. And I did suffer from PTSD while I worked with the police. And even though that was 10 years ago, last year I had a relapse because I looked at gruesome footage from Ukraine day after day after day until my mind just went, nope, no more. So just a little bit about mental hygiene. So just the definitions of vicarious trauma, it's basically, yeah, I could also call it a little bit of second degree trauma. You see it with professionals, for instance, people who work with victims of sexual abuse. As a professional, you hear those stories over and over again, and people get traumatized by it. So you see it a lot in law enforcement, emergency services, and you can also get it if you work a lot with images like these. And because you work from the safety of your own home, what you see is that a lot of people think, you know, it's okay, I'm fine. It's not like I go through what the people in Ukraine go through. So basically you push your own feelings aside with, yeah, sometimes more serious consequences than people realize. Another thing is moral injury. And that's basically, think about some footage, a video maybe you saw on the internet recently that made you really mad. And now think about having that feeling for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You are mad the whole time. And for me, because I did my investigations also into QAnon and into Ukraine, I actually had to switch up my working days. So what I did is I worked on QAnon at the beginning of the week and then worked on Ukraine later in the week, because that way I did not first have to see what the people in Ukraine go through, and then some person, some keyboard warrior who is in the safety of their own home comes with messages like these. Basically saying that what happened in Bucha isn't real. They're actors, everything is staged. And I was like, oh my God, I've seen so many pictures of those bodies. Trust me, they're real. And yeah, this really messed me up. So for me, it was a combination of moral injury with vicarious trauma. And I started getting nightmares. And luckily at Bellingcat, we have trauma experts that are willing to talk to us if we need them. But yeah, I needed somebody to help me figure this out because I knew I couldn't pull myself out of it. So I really like my job. The end of the story is I'm not very small. I have a lot of tattoos. I play very hard contact sports. I'm 36 years old, but I still sleep with a nightlight because I cannot get myself out of nightmares sometimes. So trust me when I say we do this work with a lot of passion. So I want to give you some tips, even also if you're not interested in maybe researching Ukraine, but you do like open source research. This is a quote from my colleague, and I think it's very important. Realize that anything that you put in your head will be there for the rest of your life. So what you can do, there are extensions. One of them is called Blurry, and Blurry blurs all images on your browser. So if you scroll through Twitter or anything else, if you're not in the mood to look at those images, but you still want to read the text that are there, you can use Blurry and it will blur everything for you. The same, and also the reason why I suffered from PTSD in the first place, is sound. Sound has so much more impact on your brain than you think. Now with Chrome, you have the option to turn off the sound that your browser is playing. But you also have extensions for it, like Smart Mute. Stops the sound. Work-life boundaries. be strict and develop your own ritual. Because I'm working from home now the whole day, at the end of my workday, okay, I'm home. I switch my account on my PC and I play video games, but I'm still in the same spot and my brain is still there. My ritual, I don't drink Coca-Cola while I'm doing research. So when I stop doing research, I drink a can of Coca-Cola. Some people change clothes, some people go for a walk, some people go to the gym, make music, it doesn't matter. Just design your own ritual that your brain knows, okay, we're done working, it's okay, we can relax now. And maybe remove your work email from your private phone. Maybe the people at home will like you more for it. Also very important, it's okay not to be okay. Listen to your feelings and to your body and talk to somebody if you need it, but there's nothing wrong with you if you feel down. It's okay to be sad, basically. Stop fighting it, trust me, because it will hit you even harder the more you fight it. And basically, most of the time you don't have to do it. Especially a lot of the people who are focusing on Ukraine when the war happened, they do that in their spare time. It's their hobby. I'm very lucky. I made my hobby my job. A lot of people have a full work day, come home, take care of their family, and then in the evening start up their computer because they want to help the people in Ukraine. And we saw it. The whole open source community came together when the invasion started because everybody wanted to help. But sometimes you don't have to do it. You can leave it to the professionals. You don't have to look at some of the images that are out there. And also dare to state your limit. For me, my limit, I don't want to hear the personal stories of the people that died in Ukraine because I need to keep seeing them as objects. That sounds very harsh, but I need that to keep going. So yeah, all the stories about their mothers, brothers, sisters dying, it's awful. And sometimes if I give a presentation about the work that we do in Ukraine, I have people coming up to me afterwards saying, my uncle lives there, or who want to thank me. And I'm very happy that I can help them. But it's hard for me to listen to those stories because I need to keep my distance from it. And also, I told my work, I do not work on sexual violence stories. That's my limit. I watch a lot of decapitations, I can handle a lot of blood, but sexual violence, no, that's not, I can't deal with that. So I don't do investigations into that. And yeah, I don't know how much time I have left, as much as I want, but yeah, basically, are there any questions?
Please give a round of applause. Thank you so much, Annique. Can we maybe get a little bit of light in the audience? I'm looking up. Yes, my colleague has a microphone, so if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and she'll come towards you.
Thank you so much for the insightful presentation. I was wondering, what does Bellingcat do the other way around? Is there also much on deep fakes and fake information, especially also perhaps coming from the Kremlin, or is that a whole branch, different branch altogether?
Well, it is and it isn't. So there are a lot of fact checkers that work especially on the disinformation that's coming from Russia about Ukraine. But for instance, the missile attack on Kremenchuk, the mall, and they stated, no, the mall wasn't in use and they're paid actors and everything. Yeah, we saw that happening and it basically was, no, hold my beer. We're going to prove that that's incorrect, what you're saying. So we don't really do fact-checking like that. Not as well as actual fact-checkers, but sometimes a story like that pops up and then we really try to show people that it's not true what the Kremlin is saying. We also try, because we're blocked in Russia, we have a Russian Telegram, and our website is still available on a proxy, so that we try to reach the people in Russia and show them, the stories that we do. So we try to do something against it, but yeah, like I said, they really don't like us.
Any other questions? See one in the front.
Do you play GeoGuessr?
We were just talking about this because my colleague Giancarlo, he plays GeoGuessr on Twitch. I don't know if you ever saw it. So Bellingcat has their own Twitch, and then we play GeoGuessr and we invite people to play with us. I suck. Big time, but and this is so weird for somebody that used to work with the police, but I can't handle the pressure. So I think I found it, and then I have 3 seconds to go, and then I still need to put my pin somewhere, and I consider myself the strong foundation of the people, all the people that are above me in the score list. No, I suck, but it's a fun game. One of the tips that I have indeed for people that like geolocations.
Do you think the people that are good at GeoGuessr are good at open source intelligence?
Not exactly. I think it's a different thing. So the thing with GeoGuessr is they often they recycle the image that they use. So if you play a lot of GeoGuessr, then at some point you start recognizing the images. On the other hand, you can learn a lot from. Before the presentation, I gave you the example. You'll see a sign with the speeding limit, and you think, oh, that's America, but then it turns out it's not miles an hour, but kilometers an hour, and then you have to go to Canada. I didn't know that, but I learned that from GeoGuessr. There are a lot of tips and tricks you can pick up from that. I think if you want to be a good open source investigator, we'll teach you the tricks. I don't know if my boss is going to like this for telling me. It's not that hard. There are a lot of tricks we can teach you. You can be either more technical, use a lot of Python, scrapers, things like that. I can barely turn on my own computer. I'm absolutely not technical. But I do have that insane drive if I have this much information and I'm 100% sure I can find more. I'll keep on searching until I actually found it. So if you come to me and say, well, yeah, I did a search on Google, but I can't find it, so I don't think it's out there. No, sorry, you do not have the right mindset to become a good open source investigator. I need those people that if you have a little thread on your sweater that just keeps on pulling and pulling and pulling, basically until you have no sweater left. But it's the mindset. Just keep going. Even if you have a trauma, but that's okay. There are a lot of professionals out there.
Clear. Any more questions?
Hi, I loved your presentation. I was wondering, I have 2 questions. Firstly, how is Bellingcat funded? Like, how do you guys pay for everyone who does the work? And the second one, what is the process of deciding which story to focus on? Because there's a lot of emphasis on Russia and the Ukraine right now. But we've got lots of other stories going on around the world, especially with the way that elections have been rigged, basically, by companies like the Israeli company that was exposed, Cambridge Analytica, that has a role in this stuff. So how do you guys choose what to do and what to focus on?
Yeah, no, a good question. So the first question is, so we're an NGO and we have a charity status. We're a Dutch foundation. So we have to show that we can keep our own pants up. We do that by doing these talks. We do workshops. We get paid for that. We do research proposals, so we get funding to, for instance, the QAnon project we did together with Lifehouse Reports. We got money to do research into the impact that QAnon had on Europe. So we'll do research proposals as well, but we also get a lot of donations. So we have a Patreon. Sometimes it's just we get an envelope with a handwritten note with a $20 bill saying, you do good work, can you please buy a cup of coffee for yourself? And people, put that in the mail for us. So it's for ourselves, we do the keynotes and the workshops and the research proposals and donations. So that's how we are funded. For the other questions, Yeah, absolutely true. Our Russia stories are mostly picked up by the news, but we do a lot more than only Russia. And what I really like, when I just started working at Bellingcat, my colleague Giancarlo, he watched a documentary from the Second World War about the Memphis Belle. I don't know if people know it, but it's a pretty famous bomber from the States. And they did a propaganda movie about the last flight, because these things were huge, and it was pretty rare that a bomber that big basically did I don't know how many flights without being shot down. And you saw footage from above. So they shot footage from the Memphis Belle, and you see, yeah, basically you see the coastline and everything. And they said it was in Wilhelmshaven, Germany. And he just had the idea, well, I want to check this. So we got some very old footage from Wilhelmshaven, compared it to Google Maps, compared it to surveillance pictures from the Second World War. And at that moment, the editors and my boss go, oh, that's a pretty cool story to show what we can do with open source intelligence on an old propaganda movie like that. Because it was Wilhelmshaven, but there were also different cities in France that they bombed. And we just showed everybody, wrote a short guide on how to put images onto Google Earth, how you can do the comparison. So they really push us to also do the little niche stories and our personal interest. My father passed away, a month ago to the date. So that sparked my interest in genealogy. So now I'm doing more research on genealogy websites. And they're like, go for it. We'll connect you to one of the editors. Just do it. So we really try to focus on different stories other than Russia. But yeah, the Russia story just get picked up the most.
Any more questions? It's coming your way.
So you mostly talked about how to find a specific location, but I was wondering, how much exactly does Bellingcat do? Do you create leads for journalists to then write pieces about, or do you also have a whole publishing branch and just journalists actually writing the articles? What does the organization actually look like?
Yeah, the funny thing is I think we have actually one trained journalist, and all the others are, so I'm ex-police, we have ex-military, we have a lot of different people. So we have people like my colleague Fouke, who has an amazing nose for stories. He was the one with some Google searches found out that the American soldiers in Volkel, where I don't know if there is a nuclear bomb or not, were studying their security protocol using flashcards, not realizing that those flashcards synchronize with the website. And it turned out that he uncovered the biggest part of their security protocol. We, of course, reached out to a lot of people. Maybe you should take that down. Yeah, so I'm always jealous of him, because I've been told for 11 years what to investigate. And now all of a sudden they say, here's the internet, go find something interesting. I don't know where to find something interesting. So no, it's literally our own, and we have 3 amazing editors that help us a lot with all the stories that we write, and especially me, I need a lot of help. If I want to write a short guide, all of a sudden it's 50,000 words or something. But no, so we have a lot of editors that help us out, but most of the time our stories are personal interest, personal driven. We have journalists reaching out to us, sometimes asking for advice or collaboration. And what we also do is, if we hit our targets for the trainings that we do, we also try to look at countries where press freedom isn't that normal, like here in Holland. And then we try to train those journalists for free to empower them into doing open source research. So yeah, we do a lot to help out other journalists as well, to be better at the work that they do and to tell the stories, because not everywhere is Street View, not everywhere is the internet, and we need the journalists on the ground to help us tell stories. So that's also very important to us.
I was also wondering myself, like you were talking about going down the rabbit hole and finding something and or going at it till you find it. What's your most the find you're most proud of?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm very happy with small finds. Yeah, it's what I really like, especially with the attack on Kremenchuk, is somebody. I like how the team comes together. So we have one. We started communicating about the attack and how the Russian government responded, and then you see the editor. Okay, I'll start a Google Doc. And then the first person says, okay, I'm going to search for this. And then the second person says, oh, I'm going to search for that. Okay, I'm going to search for evidence that there were people in the shopping mall and that it's not only the people outside. So, yeah, I really like how the team works and how it becomes a group effort. And I think also that gives me the strength to, sometimes if I'm not okay or I saw too many images, like I'm okay with telling them like, no, I reached my limit for today. I'm gonna watch, I don't know, Below Deck, Mediterranean or something I don't have to think about. Great show if you wanna relax your brain. But yeah, it's my colleagues became very close friends as well. And that's, yeah, we have a lot of successes. So sorry, I can't really give you one by the top of my head, but yeah.
Clear. Any more questions? Yes, Leah, I see one close by.
Yeah, hi. I just really admire the work that you do at Bellingcat. I was personally thinking of like doing something related myself, but maybe not the exact same thing, because I would honestly just get really tired, because obviously, you know, in these kinds of situations like wars and stuff where you have lots of work to do, the whole information stream just never ends. And I just was wondering how you personally deal with that. Like, when do you think you are done with your work, for example? Like, for me personally, I would think that I need an endpoint at some point, but it just keeps going. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think we're basically never done. I mean, we have to, because internet technology, it's always, it's a moving thing, so we have to move with it. But yeah, I don't think I'm done. Even when we want to publish an article and you do your last checks and you go on Telegram and then you said, oh shit, they post this message, but I also want to put it in my article. Like, no, for the writing of the article, at some point you have to say, no, we're done. But yeah, like a war in Ukraine, it doesn't stop. It's but if you're interested in starting as an open source researcher, Giancarlo also wrote an article on how to start as an open source researcher. So yeah, I can recommend reading that, but it doesn't stop. Luckily for me, I have a mortgage, so that helps. But no, it just doesn't stop.
I saw some more hands before. Okay, we'll go there and then she'll come down.
I was wondering, because you said that Bellingcat does open source research, and I assume that kind of includes more than videos and images. So I'm just wondering, like, how does that work? How does the process look like if you don't focus on images but on texts and things like that? Because also kind of like to what you said, I assume there's so much information out there. How do you even navigate around that?
Yeah, it depends. Like, so Foucault's story focused for the main focus was smart Googling, to put it like that. But he combined it later on with geolocation, and also, yeah, I think geolocation is the thing that we're most known for. People like what we do with the geolocations. But yeah, he also did the reverse image search on very old pictures. I think somewhere 1800s, something like that. So yeah, it's not only the footage that we use, but it is the main thing that you see right now. What keeps it interesting as well. But yeah, so we do the smart Googling, but as I think almost every social media platform, it's all about pictures, videos. So yeah, that is our main business at the moment.
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. And I remember, so OSINT as a whole sphere kind of popped up to me at least a year ago with the war, and it's really spread around. To what extent do you have to care about your cybersecurity and the data you handle? Because I think even 2 weeks ago, Bellingcat was getting attacked quite a lot. I saw on Twitter some things coming through, but how much cybersecurity is a concern for you as an organization and for you as an individual, considering the sensitivity of data that you're dealing with a lot of the times?
Yeah, so we are lucky. We have an amazing IT security officer who makes sure our data is safe, but also make sure that we work, our laptops are very well protected. So even if somebody wants to steal my laptop, if I walk to my car, yeah, good luck, because without my security key, it's just a very expensive cutting board. There's no way that you can get into it. So yeah, he helps us out a lot with stuff like that. And yeah, we have to be careful. Some people more than others. So of course, Elliot's very well known. Christo's very well known. Christo has been in the news these last couple of weeks. And yeah, they have to be more aware of their security. I never worked on the Russia stories, so I'm less important to them. But still, if they, I think they really want to get into the information that we have. But yeah, luckily for our IT security, that keeps us safe. And we try to keep safe with working with VPN, security keys, password managers, yeah, the stuff like that. It's yeah, the basic thing that we can do, security trainings. But yeah, it's not always fun. We have to think about some countries where we do and where we can or can't go for vacations, for instance, because they can't arrest us, but they can keep us for interrogation if they really wanted to. So yeah, it's something to think about.
Then I saw a question in the front. Maybe.
Does Bellingcat use AI, artificial intelligence, in their investigations? Especially ChatGPT, for instance?
Well, I did hear my colleague. He was trying to automate something, and he couldn't work through it, and he used ChatGPT to get the right code, and it worked. So that was. And what we sometimes do, if you do a reverse image search, and I forgot the name of the program, but you see a couple and a house that you think, okay, if I do a reverse image search on it, there must be a result, but the couple in front distorts the algorithm. What my colleagues did is they used AI to basically remove the couple in the front, and they got results on doing a reverse image search. So yeah, we try to use AI for those things. And yeah, the tech team does an incredible job with all the archiving and making sure that everything is stored. But how much AI they use for that, I'm not really sure. Like I said, if something's wrong with my computer, I Google it, and if I don't get the answer there, I cry for help. That helps. But no, but I know these examples that we used AI in our investigations.
Any more questions? Okay, one in the front.
First of all, thank you. I have a question. You spoke mainly on verification aimed at geolocation, but I was wondering, what can you tell us on verification on image manipulation? So the example here was a good one. So AI and like even Photoshop can alter images to portray something else or place atrocities in a different location, for example. Is that also part of your process?
What we do is, especially for every picture, so the first thing that you should always do if it's a verification or a geolocation is do a reverse image search. So that will, you'll see then all of a sudden that more pictures pop up of the same, let's say the rocket. We also had examples of pictures that were manipulated by deleting something out of the picture. You have an extension called InVid. I don't know if you've known it, but it's created to help people on video analysis, picture analysis, to stop disinformation from spreading. And most of the time you can still tell with all the technique that's behind it that you could see that there was something originally there in the picture. So there are more ways to do research on a picture or a video. Yeah, we'll see what the future brings because the technology is getting a lot better. So we have to stay on top of our game as well. But yeah, until now, especially with the bigger events, you'll see that you'll find footage that are different from what you saw. People around it filming it, that will pop up eventually. But yeah, it's something that we are aware of and we try to keep track of, but try to outsmart them.
Any last questions, maybe? Oh, yeah, see another one in the front.
Very interesting lecture. Is it easy to work with the police and the military? Do they use your results?
We don't work with the military. We don't work with military. We don't work with Secret Service. We don't train them. Biggest part of the police we won't train. Because, well, for once, and not because I was part of them, but the open source teams with the Dutch police are some of the best in the world. They don't need our training. They have enough expertise. The only police teams from abroad that we want to train are teams that investigate child abuse. And regarding the military or Secret Service or let's say the ICE from United States, we just don't believe that they won't use our techniques to violate human rights. So we just decided we won't train any military because we can't focus on, oh yeah, we'll train this team from the Dutch military, but we're going to say no to that. So we just drew a line and said we don't work with military or Secret Services.
So you are afraid that they misuse?
Yeah, our techniques. If it's the same with working with the police in some countries where they arrest journalists for doing their work. We will never train police forces, for instance, in countries like that. Same with governments, or there are government branches that we do train. Let's say, I think the Dutch government has a whole branch for archiving. Yeah, that's a different story than other government instances. But yeah, if we don't believe that they, if they misuse our techniques, we don't want to risk it. So we just don't train them.
I think I have a final question for you before we close it off. What if people here, after hearing this, want to get into, well, the work you do themselves? Do you have any tips for them, where to start, what to do?
Well, I mentioned Giancarlo's story with how can you become an open source investigator, and really so we have a Discord, for instance. It's a very open and welcoming community. So if you like the geolocations, you want to practice that, or you see something and you just don't understand how an investigator got to that point, just contact them, just ask a question. I'm very open also with my email. I like it when people send me an email saying, hey, I'm doing a research project, I'm stuck here, can you help me? We try to help as much as possible. And the whole open source community is like that. So if you're very interested and you think, hey, I want to get involved into this, also don't invent the wheel twice. There are a lot of guides written about how to do geolocations, how to do research on TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Just read those guides. You don't have to, invent the wheel twice. And a lot of open source people are on Twitter giving a lot of tips and tricks. Just follow them and you'll learn a lot. But just ask questions.
Clear? Well, Annique, then I want to thank you for being here today. Please
Thank
give
you.
one more round of applause for Annique Mossou. Thank you very much.